Round one of Champions Cup, and already some teams are beginning to stand out. My name is Mark. Let's talk rugby. Some big results at the weekend. Very excited for Champions Cup to be back. It was, great to see. Saw a little bit of some of the games. I managed to see a couple of games live, so that was really nice. Finally, as well, decided I caved in and got a Now subscription so that I could, watch some of the games as well. Not as many as I'd want to. If it was up to me, I'd watch every single game. But it's never, if you're working or even if you're not working, there just isn't enough time in the day, especially with games on at the same time or similar times as well. But I enjoyed the rugby that I did watch, and just watching some of the other bits and pieces of the other games as well was good too. So what we're going to do in this one is going to go down through the results, talk a little bit about the games, not as much. If you watch my URC stuff, it won't be as in depth as that one. We're just going to briefly touch on which players kind of stood out a little bit, or what kind of the major things from the game, just in terms of who was winning at halftime, that kind of stuff. Not even going in too much because I haven't watched enough highlights of all the games to be able to go through them. Spend a couple of minutes in each one, so it's probably going to be maybe 30 seconds a minute per game, just going through kind of what happened, and then we'll have a look at the pools then and see how that leaves us after one round of games. So going to start with the Friday night game, and that was Bath Rugby 20, Stade Rochelle, or La Rochelle as we call them, 24. So this one, Stade started really well. 3 tries in that first half, and it looked like the La Rochelle that kind of won this competition 2 years ago and 3 years ago, on back to back. Jago, I think, scored the first try, then Wardy got over as well, and Carvalho. They looked like they were in complete control. 21-6 up at half time. Bath did kind of rally in the second half. Dunn and Rue got over for them. But West got a penalty as well for La Rochelle to kind of give them that little bit of breathing room. And, Russell couldn't quite, inspire Bath to a famous comeback win. But in fairness, it was the forwards really for Bath, I think, that were having the poor day. The backs did as much as they could, I think, with very little ball and decent space. But yeah, good win for La Rochelle away from home. Bath, leaders in the Premiership, losing at home. You always worry if a team lose at home first up, because now they've got to get a win on the road to kind of and then win their home game as well to progress. So Bath a little bit up against it, I'd say. Next then onto the Saturday game. So the first game was Clermont Auvergne 28, Benetton 0. So this one 21-0 at halftime. Clermont cruising it. Benetton not really firing a shot in the game. Yato with a double, and then Massa with a double as well. I think he got his second in that second half when they got the bonus point try, and Benetton not even scoring a point in that one. And we talked about in the preview that Benetton have looked like they're low on confidence. They're a shadow of the side that were so competitive in the URC last year. This year really struggling there, and they carried that form into Europe as well. And already thinking that maybe they're going to be. I don't think they're going to make the knockout stages, and now it's about whether, I think, for them, are they going to get eliminated completely, or will they drop down to the Challenge Cup? I can't really see them, rallying. Even at home, yeah, they're competitive, but we've seen them last year in the URC where they could go away and they could put up a fight against teams. There was no fighting them at all in this one. Clermont, they're a team that I kind of I talked about before. I have a soft spot for them because they were there or thereabouts around the time when Munster were winning their crowns and Leinster were beginning to kind of stir from their slumber. There was a time when Leinster weren't the big dogs in Ireland in European competitions, and Clermont at that stage were one of the best teams in Europe. They absolutely loved this competition, but they couldn't quite get themselves that crown. And it'd be great to see them kind of almost nostalgia going deep into the competition again. And who knows, maybe they could get themselves a crown, but there's a lot of quality ahead of them in the queue, I think, at this stage. But really good performance from them and good start from them. Next then, the next Saturday game then was Hollywood Bet Sharks 39, Exeter Chiefs 21. So in this one, Sharks just put on a show, really. Khaleesi, that guy, he's an amazing player, but he really did, he was pulling up trees in the game. All around performance is brilliant. Bagged himself 2 tries as well. Bootlazy, Mapimpi, and Williams all got on the scoreboard for them as well. Exeter did, get 2 tries from Frost and 1 from Faye Wabosi as well. Couldn't quite get themselves a try bonus point out of that as well. I think given how dominant the Sharks were, they would have been happy if they had got that 4th try and got out of there with a point, because there was no way they were going to win the game. Sharks were just too good. And Sharks last year won the Challenge Cup, and they're stepping up, it seems, now at Champions Cup level. They'll need to back this up though on the road as well. You can't just look impressive at home in this competition. You got to do it away from home as well. But it's a brilliant start from them. Again, absolutely nothing to do with the fact that I wore their shirt in the preview. That is just complete coincidence. That teams keep getting like good luck when they wear their shirt. Because again, I don't believe in anything like that. And we don't want to start any rumors. But yeah, brilliant win from the Sharks. Chiefs, they've struggled this season, and the rebuild. It looked like last year they were further ahead maybe in the rebuild than they actually were. Maybe this year is a bit more of a realistic reflection of where they are. Still in with a chance. Again, you have to win. If you can win your 2 home games, you can get through. But generally, teams would like to pick up something on the road, and they weren't able to do it in that one. Okay, on to the next one then, and that is Northampton Saints 38, Castres 8. So Northampton Saints beaten semi-finals last year, almost pulled off a famous comeback at Croke Park against Leinster as well. That would have been a really famous win for them. Couldn't quite do it, but they looked impressive last year. Looking impressive this year as well. They've been struggling a bit in the Premiership, but they seem to be one of those teams that are able to kind of park their domestic form when it comes to Europe. And I think that's why, if you look down through the years, that for so many epochs and periods, Northampton have been a strong team in Europe. And again, I kind of go back to the time when Munster were getting their crowns. Northampton were a big strong side at that stage as well in Europe. They definitely can kind of get to maybe a quarterfinal or a semi-final this year. It's a really good start from them, 38 points to 8 against Castres, and like the half time, they're winning 14-3. I think it was it Dingwall and Maya Vanua, I think is the other guy's name. Scoring tries for them, just a single penalty for Castres. Castres not really getting into it, and Northampton just pulled away in the second half. Augustus with 2 tries, Langdon, Pollock, who looks a real prospect that guy looks special. Young lad, bouncing, seasoned veterans off left, right, and centre when he went for his try as well. And all around, I thought he had a brilliant game for them too. Castres, the one try for Kelowna, and it was already just a consolation at that stage. Castres, unfortunately, are one of those French teams that don't really care about European competition, and they focus on the top 14. So you could see them potentially losing all of their games, and maybe giving another team a chance to maybe get continue on in the Challenge Cup. Maybe at home they might produce something, but generally away from home, they send a weakened team, and results like this happen. So got to take this result with a pinch of salt, but people will say that it was against a weakened team, but you can't kind of the confidence that comes from that for a team and the momentum that they get. It doesn't really matter who the opposition were. If you win well in Europe in your first game up, then suddenly you feel like you can run through walls and pull up trees. And Northampton, they were a force to be reckoned with last year, and possibly again this year on this showing. Okay, next game then we had was DHL Stormers 14, RC Toulon 24. So Stormers, a team who did decently last year. Especially remember they beat La Rochelle down there in Nelson Mandela Bay Stadium last year, and it kind of similar chance this year to start well by beating a French team, but weren't able to do it. And their form in the URC has been poor, and again another team that kind of brought their domestic form into Europe and couldn't quite turn it around. But in fairness to them, they were winning, at half time. Tries from Halant and Dweba, Lebot converting both of those, and I think was a Villiers and then a penalty from Stedin. I think 14-10 at half time, but then couldn't score in the second half at home. And that's really poor showing. Toulon, 14 unanswered points in that second half. Isa and Serin getting over for tries. Not quite a bonus point for them, but still a big win. To go down to South Africa and come away with a win really sets them up very well. And when you get that kind of big win in a place like South Africa, you automatically start thinking about changes your mindset to, rather than qualifying now, it's about jostling for position. For the home draw really in the last 16 quarterfinal, etc. So brilliant win for Toulon. Stormers, you'd have to be worried about them at this stage. Next then we have Munster 33, Stade Francais 7. This one was at Thomond Park. I watched this one. There's a full review of the game on the channel if you want to go check that out, if you want more details of this one. But Munster, they looked fairly decent in the first half. 14-0 up. Stade end up with 2 players sent off, and then when Munster had to play against 13, they actually looked worse. Munster looked a lot better playing against 15, and even at one stage, I think Munster had 14. They had somebody in the bin, and they were 14 versus 15 and looked a lot better than they did 15 versus 13. But Abrahams had an absolutely fantastic game from them. I thought Crowley did well at 10 as well. One thing I'd say about Abrahams was that you could see he was making breaks and he's looking for the support there, and it wasn't there. I think Munster of 2 seasons ago, there would have been guys on the shoulder to turn a break into a scoring opportunity. But that's something, Munster at the moment feel like they're just kind of trying to get themselves settled back. A lot of turmoil this year. And that will come, I think, in time. People will expect them to make those breaks and will take the gamble and be there in support for them. But yeah, Daly, Kendallin, Farrell, and Coombs all getting over for tries to them. Stad with kind of caught them on the hop with a well worked try for Castres. But other than that, didn't really produce much themselves. I felt though that Stad's bench, a lot of young lads coming off the bench for them, actually dug in with a bit of pride there towards the end too. So you have to give them credit for that. But yeah, a fairly comfortable win for Munster overall. Next time we have Saracens 27, Vodacom Bulls 5. A bit of surprise this one really, because Saracens been struggling in the Premiership. The Bulls been going really well in the URC. They did have had a few kind of hiccups this season, away from home, and this really felt like another one for them as well. So, Saracens got that bonus point too. Kerr, or it's Carey, is it? Yeah, because it's the Welsh guy, right? George, Willis, and Earl all going over for them. De Klerk scoring for the Bulls. It was close to half time, it was 8-5 to Saracens, but again, Bulls not scoring in that second half and Saracens just pulling away and getting that bonus point in the end. And, Bulls, a team that last year they did pretty well and then decided to basically throw a quarter final in the competition. And now you wonder what they're going to do from here, because it's going to be a tough task for them. I think, playing 2 games in South Africa, they definitely have a chance to qualify for the round of 16. But then you think again what they did last year. Will they kind of commit to it? Especially given the fact that they didn't win that home final against Glasgow in the URC as well. So be interesting to see how they kind of treat the rest of the competition. But decent start for Saracens. Wouldn't have been one of my picks for a team to go far in the competition, given how poor they've been in the Premiership and the fact that they haven't, it feels like they're over the crest, of if you go back maybe 4 or 5 years or wherever it was, when they really were a threat in this competition. It doesn't feel like they're up there at the moment, but similar to Northampton, some momentum can completely change the complexion of a team in this competition as well. Okay, on to the next one then. And that was Glasgow Warriors 38, Sale Sharks 19. So URC champions against Sale from the Premiership. And Glasgow just completely dominated this one. George Horn with a hat-trick of tries. Brilliant scrum half. And you look actually at the stocks that Scotland have in for scrum halves. They really have an embarrassment of riches there. And it's a great position for them to be in as well, because really, we expect now Scotland to start kind of stepping up to a higher level, and that's what you need. You need a competition, and Horn was fantastic in this one. Kyle Rowe got over as well. Jones got himself a try, and Cummings there too. It was 33 points to 12 at halftime. So Glasgow, had the bonus point wrapped up well before the break. Sale, they got Reid and Carpenter over, and then they got a penalty try as well, but couldn't find the fourth try to leave with something. And they weren't really threatening a comeback in terms of getting a losing bonus point either. Glasgow comfortable lead at half time. They only added the 1 try in the second half, but they didn't really need to do too much in that second half. Again, there was no kind of big threat from Sale coming back over the top of them. And URC champions now looking really good, and people are expecting them now to I don't think kind of lucky losers is a tag that they can wear anymore. People are expecting them to at least make a quarter final in this, and have something to build on for the future, because it feels like Glasgow are going to be, they're in this competition now, year after year, whereas there was a period there where themselves and Edinburgh was kind of swapping between each other, who was going to compete in this. But it looks like Glasgow are going to be there, and if Edinburgh can get their act together, they maybe could join them too. But really good start to the campaign for Glasgow. We'll see how they do away from home and how they navigate the rest of the pool from here. Okay, next one then is a repeat of a game that happened in the pool stage last year that was really exciting, very close game. This one, though, not as close. Racing 92-23, Harlequins 12. Quins not up to the standards that they were last year. That saw them getting to that semi-final that they lost to Toulouse. Not really hitting the heights in this one. Racing led at halftime 12-5, Lagaric and Natuvi, and then Harlequins over with Dombrandt. Then second half, then Spring over for Racing, and Porter in for Harlequins as well. But again, Quins not really threatening towards the end. I think they did get themselves level in the second half. I think they made it 12-all with the Porter try, but then Racing just kind of pulled away from there and fairly easily, secured the win. And Quins couldn't even muster, a kind of late charge to get themselves a losing bonus point. So given the way it went last year, Quins kind of have a lot of work to do, I think, to get themselves qualified this time. And I think it's going to be a harder route for them as well through the knockout stages if they do get there. You would kind of expect them, they still have the ability to do that. It's just the fact that with them, they generally score a lot of points, but they also concede a lot of points as well. And if a team like Racing can, get their defense sorted a little bit better as they did in this game, then Quins could struggle a bit. So we'll have to see. Racing though, they brought in Lancaster, and they brought in some big signings there as well, looking to kind of become a force in this competition. And maybe this is the start of it, but it's kind of early days for them. But a decent win still, first up for them. Next then we have like last year's kind of sensation in the pool stages, Bordeaux Begla 42, Leicester Tigers 28. So Bordeaux just kind of gave Leicester a bit of a lesson in this one. But in fairness to Leicester, they did leave with a try bonus point out of as well, and they were leading at halftime too. Like Wells, Bassett, and Hussein, I think, went over in the first half for them. Then Samu, I don't know whether Samu scored. Then Paga Dizabal, I think, and I don't know whether Samu got over a second time, or I think he did before. No, he got second in the second half. Right, they only scored 2 tries in the first half, so it was 21-14 to Leicester at half time. But then Bordeaux just kind of turned it on in the second half. Samu over again. Bielbi, who is just an absolute Rolls Royce of a player, with a double. And then Deporter, another really good young back that they have there as well. He got in there too. Jalabert, I think he only missed once from the tee, I think. Or did he? No, I think he converted all of them. He got 6 out of 6, right? And then Paresse, I think it is for Leicester, got their bonus point try there as well. But Bordeaux definitely the better of the two teams. The thing for them though is can they first of all keep going, keep this momentum in the pool stages, and then can they perform better in the knockout stages than they did last year? They lost what was it, 42-41 or something to Quins in the knockout stages. So they definitely want to be working on the defense a bit, I'd say, if they want to progress further. Next, then, another big French team, well, the biggest French team there is, for me at the moment, it's certainly the biggest team in Europe, and that is Toulouse 61, Ulster 21, and just an absolute lesson in this one. Now, Dupont, he is an absolutely superb player, and put on a masterclass in this. Ramos as well, really good, and Ulster. What can you think? What can they do? They're in a rebuilding phase, but still you'd expect them, to put up a bit more of a fight. Conceding 61 points, it doesn't. Once it gets up that high, it doesn't really matter how many you score. When you're losing by 40 odd points, Ulster did get 21. They did get 3 tries. Couldn't get the bonus point out of it. They were losing 40 points to 14 at half time. Toulouse in no time had the bonus point wrapped up as well. And you look at the players that were scoring for them, like Lebel, Entamac, Miafu, Capuozzo, both of those are doubles. Dupont, Chocobares, and then they got a penalty try on top of that as well. For Ulster, McCormick, Moore, and Henderson all got over. But again, it was over so early. And then Ulster were they weren't even really playing for pride. They were just kind of running down the rest of the game. Honestly, there's not much pride in conceding 61 points. And last year Toulouse gave them hiding up in Belfast, and gave them an even bigger hiding in this one. But yeah, Toulouse defending champions, and for me, definitely the favourites. And I'm not just saying that to try and shift the focus away from Leinster, because Toulouse and Leinster in recent years, they'll always be the two teams that people will kind of put up there as the two teams to beat. You other teams kind of come into the mix as well, like La Rochelle, etc. But those two seem to be there or thereabouts. And Toulouse again, they're going to take some stopping, honestly, in this. Until the final game of the weekend, and it is the other kind of big favourite or pre-tournament favourite. Bristol Bears 12, Leinster 35. Again, full review of this up on the channel if you want kind of more in-depth thoughts on how the game went. But starting up, defense is on top for the first 30 odd minutes. Then Leinster, two stupid things, like Kelleher goes to the bin because they're conceding a bunch of penalties, and then Deegan goes to the bin after him for a trip within a minute. So Leinster, down to 13 for that 10-minute period before half time. Bristol immediately score, almost get in again, but then Josh van der Fleur just says, listen, we're not taking this line down, and produce an amazing 10 minutes, when they're playing with 13 players. The guy was just everywhere and drove his team forward. Leinster, through Larmour, managed to get themselves back level. And, Van der Fleur, as I said, really leading from the front there. And then it was such ferocity from Leinster that kind of Bristol were kind of happy to go in, half time even, because Leinster were threatening, to actually take the lead with 13 players. Then into the second half, then Leinster, between 50 and 60 minutes, just produced magical 10 minutes where they scored, I think, 4 tries. Prendergast with a double. They scored 3, right? Prendergast double, Barrett, and then maybe 4 or 5 minutes later, then Van der Fleur over to score as well. And at that stage, the game was done. Bristol, nice little move. Marmion kicking down behind on the right, and then Ibitoye got to the ball first and got in the corner. But again, Bristol, no chance really for any kind of bonus point from them. Losing McGinty so early in the game, obviously a blow for them. But I think, the step up at this level, they kind of found, the difference between playing Premiership and playing, some of the top teams in Europe. There is a big step for them, and not quite there at the moment. They did, show some decent play, but they found like that Leinster defense was just so aggressive. And Leinster again, not really like at their best. It was the 2 brilliant 10-minute periods. One where they were down to 13 men, and then that period between 50 and 60 minutes. And that was enough. They just went up through the gears, and Bristol could not live with them at all. Also, scrums were an absolute mess through the whole game. It was terrible from both teams. And hopefully for both of them, their scrums will improve for the rest of the tournament. But certainly, really good, away bonus point win for Leinster in that one. And then Bristol, you got to think they've got work to do now, having lost at home, even though maybe a lot of people expected them to lose at home. But still, it means they probably need to go away somewhere now and pick themselves up a win, or at least, be getting, bonus points in both of their away games and winning their final home game and hoping other results go their way. But again, next week, complexion completely change if results go their way. Now let's have a look at the pools. Let me pull them up here. There we go. Okay, so Pool 1, first of all, no surprise that, it's Toulouse leading the way there. 40 points difference, 9 tries against Ulster as well, sitting on the top there, 5 points. Other 2 teams with 5 points then, the Sharks and Bordeaux. So 2 fantastic, other teams in there with Toulouse as well. Toulouse obviously don't have to play Bordeaux, so it's just the Sharks really that they have to contend with in terms of getting that clean sweep of the pool. And then the others in the pool, Leicester on 1 point, Exeter down there in 5th place, and just happy that Ulster got a bigger hammering than they did, to not be at the bottom of the table. But you would say at this stage, the final table mightn't look too dissimilar to the way it stands at the moment. I think Ulster going to be eliminated. Again, they could produce at home, and they have been up and down under Richie Murphy, but you kind of worry about them when you take such a big defeat. But again, next week could completely change the complexion for them. Next then, Pool 2, so got Clermont Auvergne leading the way there from Leinster in 2nd place, and then you got La Rochelle there in 3rd place on 4 points. So you look at that, and it's already like some of the cream of European rugby. Leinster and La Rochelle have filled 5 of the 6 final spurts in the last 3 seasons between them. So if you're in that pool, you're already thinking, well, those 2 are through, so we've got a job for ourselves. And the teams that do have a job for themselves, Bath Rugby on 1 point, Bristol on 0, and Benetton on 0 as well. Benetton, honestly, given how poor they've been in the URC at the moment, I could see them staying in 6th place for much of the pool, and certainly finishing there once the 4 games are done. On to Pool 3 then, we have Northampton Saints leading the way there on 5 points, and the other 2 teams on 5 points, Munster and Saracens. So all the winners getting bonus points. And then the bottom 3, then you got the Bulls, who you would expect overall to perform a bit better in the pool, but we'll see how they do actually go. And then the 2 French teams then propping up this pool. So we've got Stade Francais and Castres there. Castres, I think, probably will end up in 6th place simply because they don't put much stock in this competition, and because of that, then they basically throw away 2 results, and if they can be bothered at home, they might give someone a bit of trouble, but I don't think they'll do enough to qualify. I don't think they want to qualify, honestly. And then Pool 4, URC champions Glasgow Warriors leading the way there on 5 points. Then you have Racing and Toulon, two French teams who do take this competition seriously, and that's kind of reflected in their first round results. The Stormers down there in 4th place at the moment, and behind them you got Quins and Sale Sharks. So 2 English teams at the bottom there. But those 3 teams, Stormers, Quins, and Sale, they all have decent performances in them, and that they won't feel like after one round that they're out of it. And this could be a pool that's going to be very competitive, and maybe the winner mightn't even win all 4 of their games. So I think it's going to be one that's going to be tight, and you're probably going to see maybe the 5th place team having a higher points total than a lot of the teams that qualify from the other pools. But yet, looking at this one, still all to play for, I think, in that pool. Honestly, in all the pools, it's still all to play for, but you get a feeling for some teams that they're not really up to the standard this year after one round. But that is the end of this one. We will have a preview, getting towards the weekend for round 2, and we'll also be covering those games over the weekend. I might cover a few more games given the fact that I have the weekend off, and then we'll have a review as well. I want to touch on some of the stuff from the Challenge Cup as well, but it's about getting the time to make the videos. I love talking rugby, but I want to actually talk from a place of knowledge, at least in knowing some of the stuff. Normally, for this, I'd want to watch all the highlights. I wasn't able to do that this time, so but I did as much kind of research on the games as I could for it. But with next weekend again, the fact that I have the weekend off, I should be able to watch a lot more of the action and be able to give a bit more of informed stuff there. And I think as well we're going to see a bit more kind of shape coming to the pools too. You're going to have teams who are on two wins and teams who are on 2 losses at that stage as well. But yeah, that's it for this one. Let me know your thoughts down in the comments.